She comes like a breath of fresh air, and you cannot help but fill your lungs. She comes like the shoot rising upwards, and you cannot help but lift your eyes to the sky. She comes like the flower bursting forth, and you cannot help but laugh in delight. She comes like the urge to dance, and you cannot help but spread your arms wide. She comes like the first warm rains, and you cannot help but cry tears of joy. She comes like the scent of all beginnings, and you cannot help but open your heart. Raven Caldera. The wheel has turned, and Ostara, or the spring equinox, is upon us. The earth is neither tilting towards nor away from the sun. The grip of winter has released us. We are nestled midway between Imbolc and midsummer, located in a state of balance between light and dark. In this second of 3 spring festivals, we find that the light is on the rise. Simultaneously, we find ourselves in a perfect state of balance between the light of the sun and the light of the moon. At this very moment, someone standing on the equator can see the sun directly above them, passing overhead. This is a special time for pagans, as it only occurs twice a year. An almost Taoist semblance always arises in my mind when thinking of the equinoxes. The word equinox originates from the Latin equus, meaning equal, and nox, meaning night. Pagans the world over celebrate Ostara on or about March 20th each year. Until the 18th century, astrologically speaking, the first day of spring marked the new year. It is quite telling that our ancestors saw the year's birth when the sun and the moon hung in the sky equidistant from Mother Earth. It is not terribly surprising that spring has been honored in by many different belief systems throughout history, including, of course, the modern celebrations pagans enjoy during Ostara. Celebrants in days of old would, as well as those in days of modernity, perform rituals to cleanse out old energy in both themselves and their homes. The immeasurable reverence for nature held by the pagan belief system includes the manner in which the sun and moon are honored. As such, this equinox is celebrated with enthusiasm, for light and dark are in perfect balance, opening up ways in which the energy all around us can be tapped into. So it is quite understandable that Ostara is delightfully enjoyed the world over. We honor the rites of spring, thus honoring our Mother Earth. This Sabbath is steeped in symbology surrounding rebirth, fertility, and renewal. As previously mentioned, different cultures throughout the ages have and do still honor different spirits and deities during this time of year. This morning, we will be covering a number of different societies, both past and present, as well as the different celebrations of said societies. The ancient Roman civilization honored different deities during this time of year. For example, many celebrated Tubulastrium from approximately the 19th through the 23rd of March. Tubulastrium celebrated the beginning of campaign season. Roman Catholic theologian and scholar Johannes Quatzen believed that during the celebration, trumpets used in sacrifices were purified, connecting music with the use of ritual in ancient Roman cults. During this festival, tributes to the Roman god Mars were also performed, including, though not limited to, celebrations imbued with music and dance by priests called Salei. This unique order in the ancient world was known as the dancing priests of Mars. Their job was to perform a special dance around sacred shields while chanting. Some experts believe that the final day of the festival was spent worshiping Mars. Other Romans honored the goddess Minerva through celebration. The daughter of Jupiter was the Grecian equivalent of the goddess Athena. Said experts state that the festival honored the goddess of wisdom and war and was called Quincatria. During this festival, women were known to seek counsel through seers and/or fortune tellers. The ancient Roman civilization also honored a Phrygian goddess named Cybele. A cult sprang from that particular portion of the mythological belief system. It is interesting to note that Attis, Cybele's mate, was born by virgin birth. As was previously mentioned, the world over, throughout history, different cultures have celebrated this balance between light and dark, or at the very least held ceremonies at similar dates and times. Babylonia celebrated Akita, a spring festival centered on the captivity and escape of the god Marduk, as well as his marriage to the earth goddess Ishtar. People have also celebrated the spring equinox in ancient Maya in Mexico at the ruins of Chichen Itza. Many gather on both the spring and fall equinoxes, watching as the afternoon sun produces a shadow that looks like a snake moving down the stairs of the pyramid Kukulkan or El Castillo, ultimately merging with a large sculpture at the head of a serpent. Unsurprisingly, the Mayans are also known to have been skilled astronomers. It is interesting to note that historically and mythologically speaking, many of the popular beliefs about Ostara are based upon scant evidence. To begin, let's look at the most commonly held beliefs concerning the origin of the Sabbath. The goddess most often associated with the pagan holiday is Eosta, the West Germanic goddess of dawn. However, references to this goddess are attested solely by Bede, a monk who authored an 8th century work titled The Reckoning of Time. Bede wrote that during the month of April, Anglo-Saxon pagans held feasts to honor Eostre. The Northumbrian monk could have been confused about the name of the month itself, because at the time, April was called Aostrana by the locals. Eostra could have also been confused with the seasonal goddess of the time. Some have even said that Bede invented Eostra. However, the monk was quite heathen-phobic, so that's unlikely. Although there is no clear proof that Eostra was worshipped prior to Bede's literary work, by the 19th century, she'd become an important part of German culture. She sprang up again in literature in 1839 when author and folklorist Jacob Grimm wrote about the goddess in his Deutsche Mythologia. In the piece, he suggests that the name for Easter, or what he called Ostern, is likely obtained from Bede's work. He also wrote that Ostara, or Istra, was the goddess of the growing light of spring. We know for sure that any history written concerning Ostara does not appear until Bede's work and was not seen beyond Western Germany until the 18th century. Interestingly, Grimm also made a connection between Ostara and eggs. Eggs appear in a number of mythologies from all over the world in different ancient civilizations, often appearing in legends and stories connected with the form of cosmic egg. In fact, there is more than one legend in China centering around a cosmic egg, some of which state that the very first being was born of eggs. One such example is the story of a Palang family who traced their own ancestry to a Naga princess who is said to have laid 3 eggs. Mythos connecting eggs to the creation of the universe is also found in Sanskrit texts describing the yolks as the earth and the shell as the heavens. In pagan circles, some believe that eggs can be a tool of sorts in magical practice. It is said that blowing on an egg, then painting the shell is representative of your wishes. Such eggs can be gifted to friends or family members as charms. It is also said that burying an egg by the entrance of your home blesses your garden for the year. Connections between the egg and the cosmos have also appeared in Hinduism. However, the actual festival that falls at the beginning of spring in India is the beautiful, color-filled Holi. Held each year on March 18th, the celebration springs from the Hindu legend of Krishna and Radha, representing the triumph of good over evil. The celebration includes the tradition of throwing colored water and powder on loved ones. Where India's mythology speaks of Radha and Krishna, Norse mythology often references a few different spring goddesses. Scandinavian mythology speaks of the goddess Iduna and Freya. Iduna is known as the Rejuvenator. She bore the apples of eternal youth to the gods of the Aesir. She is also known as the goddess of eternal youth, radiant dawn, and rebirth. Her totem or spirit animal is a rabbit. The egg is also one of her symbols. Some believe that the Norse goddess Freya is nearly identical to Ostara. As the goddess of fertile spring, she is also known as the resurrection of life after winter. As mentioned before, many cultures usher in spring in their own venerable way. Another spring holiday is Nowruz, the Persian New Year holiday that lasts 13 days and is celebrated by millions of people. In Persia, the spring equinox falls on the new year. The ancient celebration stems in part from Zoroastrianism and Mithraism. This celebration is steeped in Zoroastrian and Iranian origins, and each ritual centers around leaving the past behind and honoring new beginnings. The rituals themselves begin approximately 3 weeks before the equinox itself. Each person's home receives a deep cleaning, removing any clutter that has accumulated throughout the year. On the 13th day of the holiday, celebrants enjoy the outdoors with picnics. Zoroastrian mythology tells the story of creation, describing an ongoing battle between good and evil, speaking specifically about a 1,000-year-long truce in which evil throws himself into an abyss and good lays an egg. The egg rises yet again. In the story, the egg represents the universe herself and is located between where good and evil reside. In Japan, the first day of spring is a national holiday called Shohubun no Hi. It is believed that when the spring equinox occurs, the Buddha appears to help lost souls, guiding them to the afterlife. Families tend to the graves of their ancestors and loved ones, arriving with gifts such as food, flowers, or alcoholic drinks such as sake. In reference to pagan beliefs, although Bede's work offers a purely scholastic view of what appears to be the origin of the goddess Ostara, such a view in no way lessens the importance of pagan spiritual practice concerning the equinox. The ancient Celtic civilization's megaliths are positioned on a solar basis. In the modern pagan belief system, Ostara marks the time of year when the maiden aspect of the goddess reconnects with her reborn consort, who Celts refer to as either Pan or the horned god. The maiden form of the goddess essentially crosses from the time of childhood to the time of adulthood. For modern pagans, this is a time of fertility. The earth is renewed and growth is seen all around us with the flowers blossoming. Nature herself springing forth, whilst the earth is in perfect balance between the light of the sun and that of the moon. The spring equinox is a powerfully important point of the year for pagans the world over. That balance between light and dark speaks volumes in such beliefs, as does the changes this time of year that come along with spring. And as previously mentioned, each pagan's deep connection to and reverence for nature herself. In England, Stonehenge is visited before dawn in an effort to greet the rising sun on the equinox. Visitors are permitted in the area during the spring equinox, but only until the sun has risen. Many arrive dressed in garb made of natural materials, often bearing a staff. Groups welcomes the spring by thanking the four corners, north, south, east, and west, with hands raised turning to face each direction as they offer appreciation. A beautiful way to ground yourself whilst connecting simultaneously with nature. Much like ancient pagans before, our predecessors did. This practice often thanks as well as honors such a magical time of manifestation and creation. As the world comes alive and the sun continues to gather strength, different pagans come to celebrate in different ways. Some choose to plant seeds. Others choose to perform a ritual to welcome spring or simply meditate outdoors. Still others choose to perform a deep cleaning of their home, saying goodbye to dust and clutter. The fertility of our Mother Earth signifies the promise of Imbolc born on Ostara. No matter how one chooses to celebrate this time of renewal, rebirth, and fertility, the opportunity to connect exists, to tap into the power of both the universe herself and nature all around us, to tap into the power of our Mother Earth, whose true beauty can be undoubtedly found year-round, yet is especially evident in this very moment, a moment in perfect balance in our ever-moving wheel of the year. Thank you for sharing your time in this virtual space with us this morning. Feel free to join us in our coffee hour, and it is my sincerest hope that all of you, my beautiful Mosaic and brothers and sisters, will go forth and make Ostara mischief today. Blessed be.